Needing some encouragement to break through your now? Here's what Life Coach Sloan says. Change the way that you think and you will alter the entire course of your life.
You're tuned into Breaking Through Your Now with your life coach, Sybil Sloan.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of Breaking Through Your Now with your life coach, Sybil Sloan. And I have Sharrod Coleman with me, a native of Alabama.
Alabama, right.
So normally, you guys, let me go ahead and put this disclaimer out here. I know he's Pastor Sharrod Coleman, but he's given me permission to just call him Sharrod Coleman because he just want to lay aside the title and just have a real conversation. Yeah. So today we're going to talk about relationships, and we're going to talk about relationships, how it has its effect on the church community. Because I believe we've just been misled about dating. I believe we've been misled about marriage.
Oh, God.
And I think it has caused more trouble than triumph.
Really?
So tell us a little bit about yourself and welcome to my show. And I'm honored to have you.
I am so excited to be here with you. I am excited, enamored, elated, enthused. I feel like I've made it because I'm on the show with Sybil Sloan. Oh, wow. So I'm so super excited to be here. So thank you for having me on the show. Pretty much nothing amazing about me. I'm from Thomasville, Alabama. That's about 130 miles south of here. Born and raised Thomasville, Alabama. Church boy. Grew up in the grand old Church of God in Christ. Okay. And been in church all my life. Musician, singer. And then when I got 23, started pastoring. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
So you and Jesus go a long way back.
Go a long way back. A long way. It's amazing.
Yeah, so that's interesting because 23 you started pastoring. How long you've been at the same church ever since you started pastoring?
Yes, one church, for 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 6 years I've been there, yep.
So when we're talking about relationships, so before we do that, what's the name of the ministry that you pastor at?
Shady Grove Baptist Church, Silas, Alabama.
Silas.
Yeah, that's in the country in Choctaw County.
Oh, what's the name of that county?
Choctaw County.
Okay, I won't try to say that.
Yeah, don't try to say it.
It's probably what, C-H-O-Q?
C-H-O-C. T-A-W.
That's my point. That's my point about Alabama, but we're not going to go into that because I talk about how people with these names, they don't go with what ebonically or phonetically should be with the country, the city, a state, so whatever. So Alabama, at least it's right. Let's get back to this about church and relationships. So you're pastoring now.
I am.
And you single, you married?
I'm single.
Divorced?
I am divorced.
So you gotten divorced since you were pastoring?
Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wait, how did that affect pastoring?
Oh my God, it had its effect on it. It had its effect. It was a great learning process, a great experience for me. It was good for me to be able to see people for who they really were, because you don't know who's really with you when you're in the glamour scene.
And everything's perfect.
Everything's perfect, but you know who's really with you and who's really for you when you get a little stink on you.
Yeah, I believe that, because the people that's with you, when you stink a little bit, they're not going to pull away.
Right.
But they're going to be like, let's talk about the stink.
Exactly.
They're going to tell you, the real one's going to tell you stink.
Exactly.
But the other ones, they're going to be like, you stink, and they be like I'm out of here.
Right. So then they're going to tell everybody else you stink too.
Wow. So this segment, we're going to pull out this right now. We won't dwell in it but the irony of it is, so most people that read my book already know that I divorced. My husband was my pastor, and we divorced while in pastoralship, and that was mentally chaotic for me.
Wow.
So that's why I asked you how did it affect you, because I went into like a deep depression. I actually pulled away from singing and everything. I didn't want to do anything ministerially because I felt like my testimony was now tainted. Like people were going to be like, you ain't got no testimony, you'd hold divorce.
Wow.
So I just was like, no, God, I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't want to sing. Don't invite me to church to do nothing. As a matter of fact, I didn't even go to church for a couple years, and people kept calling me, I want you to come be my worship leader. And I was like, nah. And then one church, I tried it, and I was like, nah, I don't feel right.
I can identify with that.
But now, this one pastor made me an offer. I couldn't refuse.
Oh, Lord Jesus.
that financial packet was nice. So it pulled me out of darkness, brought me to the marvelous light. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
But the irony of it is, people were very judgmental. Like, how can you be a preacher's wife, and you're divorced? So I didn't even tell people for a long time. And so people were like, how's your husband? I was like, I don't know. And they were like, what do you mean you don't know? Because I'm not married anymore. And they were like, well, why didn't you guys tell anybody? I was like, it wasn't public information. And besides, I didn't want to have this conversation that we're having right now. So mentally for me, it mentally took me out. Like, it mentally made me think, you got this stuff all wrong, because you trust in God for all this stuff in your life. You up here singing and preaching and proclaiming it, but you couldn't even get them to keep your little household together. Now that's what happened to me. So did you have any of those feelings?
I had all of those feelings, and probably then some. I can identify with you when you said that you want to kind of leave the ministry and kind of just let everything go. I had those feelings until I had a talk with me and God had a talk. And then he posed me the question. He said, did I tell you to quit?
Wow.
And so I had to sit back and think about it. And I'm like, wow, you didn't tell me to quit.
Wow.
So who am I basing my decision off of? Because like you said, people can be so judgmental and they can say this and not even know the situation, say this and say that and put their own little ideas into what they think happened. But at the end of the day, he said, did I tell you to quit? I said, no. So I kept on going.
Wow. You guys, that is a good breaking point. We have some words from our sponsor, and after this, we will be right back to hear more about how this is working with the church, not just church, but church relationships, and then dating after divorce, all those good things that the church just doesn't help us talk about. But we'll be right back. And welcome back, you guys. And right before the break, we were actually talking about divorce while you're pastoring and how that sort of kind of takes its toll. And you had just told me that God told you, I didn't tell you to quit, so you chose to keep going. But so you journey past, and I'm sure you went through your healing process.
Absolutely.
So before I go into this next part of the conversation, what would you say to a pastor or a pastor's wife or a leader out there who's actually at that point in life? Because somebody's watching who's at that place, and they're really wanting to throw in the towel. Right.
Well, I go back to what I said, Sybil, and it's all about, did he tell you to quit? I mean, did he tell you to give up? He's not going to call you to something and then tell you to give up because you go through a little storm, a little rain. So I would just say persevere, keep on going. What I've noticed and learned about people is people attach themselves to whatever is hot at the moment. So when it gets cold, they'll move on to the next thing. So if you are in that position or in that place right now, it's just hot right now. Soon the heat will wear off and they'll move on to the next thing. So just keep going until the heat wears off. That's what I would say.
The next hot topic.
Yeah.
I like that. Wait, just stay right there. They'll find something else. And I tell people, like, tomorrow you will not be trending news. You're just trending today because it's current. Tomorrow somebody else's situation is going to pull up and take precedence over yours.
Absolutely.
So now that you've gone through the divorce and now you're single. So did you immediately start dating, or did you?
I waited a little while because, you have to have time to get yourself together. You have to have time to make sure that you have healed properly and kind of examine the last situation to see what is it that I've did or what if I could have done better. So I did take a little time, and then I kind of got back out there a little bit.
So what you define by little time?
I say a little time, maybe 2 months, 3 months.
That is
I took time.
That's a real little time, you guys.
It's a real little time, yeah. And I took that little time to just kind of focus on me and evaluate myself and, evaluate the past situation to see what it is that I could do in the next situation. So I did take a little time, but then I kind of jumped back in slowly.
Right.
Yes.
So how long were you married?
I was married for 8 years.
8 years?
I got married real young.
I was going to say, you were a teenager.
Yeah, I was 23. I got married as soon as I got called to pastor.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I started preaching in 2008. I got called to my church in 2011. The church that I came from, it was one of those churches that they say, okay, if you've been called to preach, you better hurry up and get a wife. And so that pressure caused me to make a decision that I really wasn't even ready for.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's similar, because I know several people where the people, I mean, my grandmother says it's better to marry than to burn. So it didn't even matter if you were ready for it. If you say you're a Christian, you better go get married or you're going to hell, because you're going to be out here sinning. Like, that's the natural inclination, that you automatically going to be sinning if you're male or female out here in the church. So you started easing your way back in. So it has to be difficult for your lifestyle as a pastor, but not just that. You're single. You're a professional singer. So now, you guys don't get offended, but there are groupies all over the road.
All over.
And like, as soon as you come into town, these girls will put you all the way up. Like, you come into town, you don't even have to do anything but show up.
Absolutely.
They'll give you everything you need. So how did you handle that pressure?
The pressure, I don't sit here as a perfectionist, Sybil, but I've had my issues with that and dealing with those different type of things. But I feel like when you come to a level of, for me, it's about maturity. When you come to a level, every man needs to come to a level of maturity when he realizes who he is and realizes what he needs. Right. Okay. And by me being a singer, pastor first, and then a singer, I just came to the realization that I need to do whatever it takes to, first of all, protect the anointing that's on me, and then, to kind of maneuver through with tact and to, because we think, sometimes it's a mind thing, we think we need certain things that we really don't need. So that's why I said I had to grow up in my mind first, grow up in my mind. And once I grew up in my mind, everything else kind of just fell into place. That those things weren't as enticing as they used to be. Right. Yeah.
And we definitely don't want to make it seem like you're the perfect person, but I also know that the temptation.
Absolutely.
Because I know guys who are really good guys that really love. My dad was a quartet singer. They traveled, and my dad was like, you could go on the road and you don't need anything. These women will pay in hotels for you.
Absolutely.
They will be willing to get cars, pay for these vehicles for you. Yeah. Just whatever. And so I know that had to be great, not just from the singing side, but the preaching side. So one thing I noticed you said maturity, like you had to come up to the realization in your mind that everything good ain't good for you.
Yeah, everything glitters not gold.
That's what the old people say, and everything shine ain't silver.
That's right. That's right.
Sometimes it's copper and it's got somebody hit it with some light.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering, when you think about the journey in relationships, is there something that you wish you would have gotten, maybe some type of teaching? What do you think could have helped? I know we're about to go to a break and we can cover it when we come back.
Okay.
But when we come back, let's talk about what you think could have helped you avoid some of the stumbling blocks, because I believe if we would just educate on that in the Christian arena, we won't have to rely on the secular mistakes. Because I believe we make secular mistakes because nobody in church is talking about it.
Right.
Because we already know that they're not perfect, and they don't want us to know that they're not perfect.
But we already know.
Right, but we already know. So, you guys, we're going to be right back after these messages from our sponsor. Keep it locked in right here, because we have more information just for you. And welcome back, and thank you guys for tuning back in to Breaking Through Your Now with your life coach, Sybil Sloan. And remember, if you change the way that you think, you will indeed alter the entire course of your life. So Sharrod, we were talking about if we had somebody I call it putting out some deflectors out there, just helping people avoid I call it the fatality of relationships, because Christian and courting can be catastrophic. You know, y'all been around the Baptist preachers a long time. You see Christian courting and catastrophic. I love it. So what do you think could have helped you possibly avoid some of the bumps and bruises?
Well, I would say one thing, I'm not one that blames people for one. I want to say that I had good examples that I had to glean from. I had a wonderful upbringing in a Christian home and all that good stuff. But sometimes we know what to do, but we just fail to do it. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. And we had great examples. We've seen what successful relationships look like, and then we've seen some unsuccessful relationships as well. And sometimes we fail to learn from what we have seen in the past. But I would say this, there was very little tutoring as far as hands-on when it came down to me as a young guy in singing, in church, in preaching ministry and all that. There was very little hands-on because I tell everybody, I tell young preachers, I tell pastors everywhere, this thing does not come with a manual.
Right.
It doesn't come with, it's like on the job training. It's on the job training. And so it didn't come with a manual. So I wish there would have been more hands-on, somebody willing to, and also when you're gifted, and this is not to toot my own horn, but when you're gifted, people will kind of shun you because sometimes when you're gifted, people look for your downfall. Yes. And so they won't take time to say, let me pull you under my wing so that you won't fall into XYZ, because they want you to fall into XYZ because that's going to make their light shine. Right.
They want to take some shine off your light, because then they're like, oh, they're already gifted. They already see you in a different light, so they won't fail you. They want to see what failure looks like on you. But I tell people all the time, it don't matter how much I flub up. It's the favors on me so great, that's you will never be able to see it anyway.
Absolutely.
All you're going to be like, darn, she fell now and she's still winning.
Exactly.
I tell people I can never lose. And I don't say that to be arrogant, but I just believe my life was ordained as a winner.
Absolutely.
So I can't ever lose, no matter how bad it looks. So were you raised by a two-parent household or a single-parent household?
Two parents, mother and father. My dad was a preacher. My mom was the soloist.
Oh, Lord, so your daddy was a preacher. Yeah. Oh, my.
Yeah.
So you were Kojic, though. So you sing church, boy. You sing Fulton. You sing everything.
I've seen everything.
So you got, okay, so help me think. And so in Kojic, they really enforced getting a wife if you were going into pastoralship.
Absolutely.
Period. It didn't matter if it was that one you didn't like.
Yep.
You look good marrying her.
That's right.
Did you go to a Kojic church or did you go?
I went to a Kojic church. I've been brought up Kojic all my life.
So you're a pastor in a Kojic church now?
No, I pastor a Baptist church now.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So you really... So that was different. That's a whole nother show. Yeah, we gotta bring you back for that one. Absolutely. So you felt led, or urged, or pressed, or enticed, or influenced to get married. That didn't work. So now, how are you looking at it? Because you know no one gave you a manual. Nobody said, well, after you get divorced. Because what happened is you had to put on brakes with your life. I tell people this is real life. You went from being married, having your relations with your wife on a regular basis, or however it happened, either way, you did it, to
pull it all the way back.
And so people in real life expect, see, I don't go for the hype and the lie. I don't believe in praying for God to take something away from me, because you fool around, he don't bring it back, give it back to you. And then your next mate be ready to dismiss you because you done asked for God to put water on your fire. So there's people out there that say, you just pray to God and pray to God. And I'm like, we deal with reality. I coach with reality. I know about praying and I know about faith, but you go from being married 8 years, not 8 days, not 8 months, and now you got to put a screeching halt on all of the things that went with being married.
Yeah.
How did that work for you?
That was an amazing journey. I worked it out the best way I could, the best way I knew how. I didn't work it out to come to the perfect solution, but I worked it out the best way I could. I say this, you have to have discipline. And discipline comes with maturity. That's what I keep going back to that, because maturity is so important, because just because it's red Kool-Aid in the refrigerator doesn't mean I have to go drink it. So you have to discipline yourself, and you have to mature your mind, and you also have to be cognizant and conscious that when you, if you are going to do these things and do those married things that you used to do now that you're unmarried, you are setting yourself up for so many other things, because you have stuff like soul ties, and people don't want to talk about that.
Oh, no.
Oh my God.
There's some pastors that say soul ties is no such thing. I'm thinking, okay.
You're setting yourself up for so many other things to occur. So it's best to just kind of get to yourself and just kind of be like, you know what, God help me to just kind of do what I need to do, so I won't be caught up into what I don't need to be caught up in. And so that's what it was for me. Just a lot of staying to myself, staying busy preaching, singing, whatever I was doing, so that I wouldn't find myself idle, because an idle mind is the devil's workshop. Now that's what the old preachers told me, the old saints in church told me. So that's what it was for me, pretty much.
And I don't know if it's so much, but what I will say about the idle mind, it may not necessarily be the devil's workshop, but I do believe an idle mind is what causes us to veer off into things that we shouldn't. But we'll be right back after these messages to wrap up more on relationships. Yourself so that the idleness doesn't lead you astray. Has that worked for you?
It works for me pretty good, because I stay pretty busy, on the road doing this and doing that. And plus I'm in school, so I'm a student, so that's a full-time job. So then you got full-time ministry, school, singing, so I stay pretty busy. So it helps me to, kind of keep my mind together and stay focused on what I need to be focused on.
And avoid the snares.
Yeah, avoid the traps. That's so easy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so easy.
So are you trying to get married soon?
God, yes.
You are? Yes. Are you trying to get married for the right reason this time, though?
Oh, I'm trying to get married for the right reasons now. Like I said before, when you come to a level of maturity, mentally you come to that place where you want to be settled, and you want to share your life with somebody, and I'm at that place where I want to share my successes with somebody that truly loves me, and I love them back. You understand? So I'm at that place now where I think I'm ready to do that thing.
Okay, so how long have you been divorced?
I've been divorced for a year now.
For a year? On paper?
Right.
Okay, so...
Oh, God, we don't want to talk about the...
We're going to come back and talk about the off-paper stuff. But on paper, you've been divorced for a year.
Right.
And so, and they say that men, and it's been statistically proven, that men are more inclined to date faster and marry faster after divorce or death. Compared to women, because men actually, they say, have a problem being by themselves for whatever reason. I'm not sure whether you guys have. Some
people, some don't.
I don't know. I think statistics, it says men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. I think Jay-Z said that, right? I'm just saying. Statistics says Jay-Z. Statistics say that men are more inclined to marry faster after divorce or death because they are looking for typically someone to companion, to care give, to support. Where most women are so bitter after divorce that they typically are looking for a relationship because they're trying to regain what they feel like they've lost. Most feel like they've lost their independence and all those things. So what would you say to the person who's trying to be a Christian? And I use the word try. I don't like the word because try means you're not, but they're working on their relationship with Christ and they're wanting to date someone, but they don't really know how to approach dating or courtship as a Christian. Oh, wow. Well, I would say personally, I would say that the relationship with Christ is the most important one. I always tell people that if your relationship with Christ is solid, your relationship with everybody else will be solid. So that's what
I believe people need to spend most of their time on is getting closer and closer and closer. That relationship with Christ needs to be so tight and it needs to be so strong, so that when you do start courting or do start dating, you depend on that relationship with him to lead you to the right person that you need to court or date.
Right. Because
if your relationship with him is not strong, you'll just go out there and you'll just pick up anything. I hate to go to the script, but as being who I am, Genesis, when I looked at the book of beginnings, God made all the animals, all the beasts of the field, and then he said there was still not one suitable enough for Adam. And so then he made the woman. And he called a woman, they called him Eve, gave her a name or whatever. So he made someone that was suitable for Adam. If he hadn't made one that was suitable for Adam, he would have ended up hooking up with a beast.
Oh my.
And many times that's what happened. We end up hooking up with Okay, I'm gonna have to come back and talk about
you can come back and talk about the beast.
Good. Yeah.
You can come back and talk about the beast.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like that. But I believe people hook up with beasts because the education is missing.
Yeah.
We talked about it. Church doesn't talk about secular things.
We don't do
Church
it.
just talk about Jesus.
Yeah.
And it takes more than Jesus to survive.
Way more.
And Jesus is going to help you on your spiritual journey.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have tools for success in life, like common sense,
right,
to know 1 + 1 really does equal 2.
That's major.
If you're missing that,
yeah,
then you're going to hook up with the beast, and then you're probably going to be divorced, or you're going to be separated, or you're going to be miserably married,
right,
and still in church holding position.
Wow.
And now people want to figure out why your church won't progress, but we won't go into that because that's
really
a whole other issue.
Okay, yeah.
Because I believe that if we ever get church to address secular topics, then society won't have to try to address church topics.
Exactly.
And they're going to always approach church topics from a secular position.
Exactly.
So when they tell you about dating, they're going to tell you, Sharrod, make sure that this lady has her credit right. Make sure her health is right. Make sure her finances are right. Make sure she's intelligent. Make sure she handles her business. They're never going to ask you how is her spiritual walk.
Right.
Because in the secular world, all that's important is secular things, which means if you have a solid woman secularly and then she has no spiritual or moral compass, then you probably married the beast.
Absolutely.
Even though she could be a real good beast in society, meaning she could be a go-getter, overachiever, make things happen. So those are topics that I just think that we miss in church. And we cause people to fail.
Right.
Whether intentionally or unintentionally. And most people in church can't talk to you about healthy relationships because most people in church don't have healthy relationships.
Don't have them.
Most people in church are maintaining relationships because if they get divorced, they're not going to be accepted.
Yeah.
So we're running out of time, so we're going to come back. We're going to bring you back.
We got to come back.
So we can talk more. Again, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
You guys, this has been Church Talk with Relationships and Courting with Sharrod Coleman, one of the great pastors and quartet singers here in the Alabama area. Remember that if you change the way that you think, you will alter the entire course of your life.